Hey, it's Naftali Huff. I'm betting that if you're watching this video, it's because you share some of the same concerns that I have. You know, when coronavirus hit us all, blindsided us really just a few months back, we didn't know what to do with it, and we understood that there was going to be a serious and possibly long-term impact on our role as educators. And I just jumped right in, not really knowing what I was doing, starting to create a platform for webinars for teachers and school leaders, just trying to share what I know and give everybody an opportunity to learn, to collaborate, to create community around best practices. And I was so touched by the number of people that were showing up, the feedback that I got, that was telling me that it really was resonating with so many people. And that was very inspiring for me, but I knew and I know that so much more still needs to be done. And as the landscape continues to shift, and as we're starting to see about the possibility of a slow rollout and a slow return as we get on the back end of this summer vacation, summer break, and not really knowing what that's going to look like, I said to myself, well, what can we be doing to help what could I be doing to help educators feel as comfortable, as confident, and as ready as possible, and to help their students through a process that has never been seen before? You know, we know that the last few months, the end of the school year, beginning in March, we had to pivot on the fly to a remote platform. We had to do things that were beyond our comfort zone. We had to develop a growth mindset and say to ourselves, build the confidence and say, I can do this, and I can drag myself, and I can bring my people and my students and whatnot to the finish line, and we will cross it. And we did. And for that alone, we have a lot to be proud of. At the same time, we want to start the new year fresh and ready. We have some teachers, maybe that's you who's watching this, that's brand new and did not yet have the opportunity to get into a real classroom and begin and do the great work of teaching. Or maybe you're relatively new to teaching and you just want to take your practice to the next level. Or maybe you are a veteran, you're like a trainer, a principal, and you want to take your people and help them grow and develop. So I'm thinking to myself, what could I offer? What is it that I have the capacity to share? What are the issues, the hot button topics that everybody wants to learn about? And so I put a survey out there, and if you haven't taken this survey, I would really appreciate it if you can give me a couple of minutes of your time just to share your ideas. I will definitely be linking up the survey so that you could do that. But the feedback that I did get so far is very clear that in addition to support in the area of remote learning, whatever that ultimately looks like, whether it's remote or blended or in person, then out of person, exactly what that configuration is, we don't know. Another piece that's absolutely critical, especially now, is a focus on social emotional learning for our students, as well as understanding the social emotional needs of our teachers, of our colleagues, of our team. Because when you are working remotely in particular, it is so much harder to develop relationships that people feel good about, people feel deeply connected, that there's trust being developed. All the things that we might take for granted under normal circumstances cannot be taken for granted in this environment. And if we want our students to be successful, we cannot ignore the emotional needs that they have, especially now. We cannot ignore the social needs that they have, especially now. And how do we find ways to integrate as much social emotional learning as well as application and practice in their lives, whether they're calling into school from a remote platform or whether they're physically in our classroom? We need to be able to meet their needs and do so in a very robust way. So I decided to put together a short video, which also includes a brief PowerPoint, which I'm pulling up, and to share with you some thoughts that we could be focusing on as we're considering promoting SEL in the COVID classroom. Now, just quickly before we roll up our sleeves, I just wanted to put this out there so that those of you not familiar get a little bit of a sense of who I am and why I should be talking about this particular topic. So I am a former educator. I was in the classroom for many years, and concurrent and then eventually full-time moved into administrative roles, eventually being a head of school of a K-8 in Georgia. After my time as a head of school, I then moved into educational coaching, which is what I've been doing for the last 7 years. So I've seen education from all angles, from all perspectives, inside the classroom, outside the classroom, in the building, outside the building, but I've never seen anything like this. And so through the coaching work that I've been doing with teachers in real time, boots on the ground, at least virtual boots, over the last few months and beforehand, getting a sense of what people's challenges are, I would like to be able to present what I think are some really important and valuable strategies or pieces of information for you to consider that will help you as you think about your professional practice moving forward. So with that little introduction in mind, let's pivot now to a very important element as we think about the core components of SEL, of social emotional learning. And there really are five. So those five are listed over here on the right side. Number one is self-awareness. Number two is self-management. Number three is social awareness. Number four is relationship skills. And number five is responsible decision making. Let's unpack each of these a little bit, and then we'll go a little bit deeper as well so that we can have a meaningful takeaway in our few minutes together. Self-awareness is understanding the impact that we have on other people. I'm sorry, self-awareness, right? The body space that we occupy, the words and emotions that we use and their impact on other people. Self-management is the ability to self-motivate, to have self-control, to regulate emotions in a way that makes me feel calm and relaxed and in control, and of course has an impact on the way I interact with others as well. Social awareness is embracing diversity and showing empathy, understanding that connection between self and other, and interacting in a way that is healthy and supportive, collaborative, all the things we want our students to be doing, not only academically, but also in terms of growing into the whole person that we seek to develop. Relationship skills, we talked about cooperation and collaboration, the ability to resolve conflict. All of these are really important because these are real life skills. So they're relevant for now. They're important to get us through this pandemic, get us through all of the emotions and the challenges and the difficulties we're experiencing, as well as skills that will help the children at home, help them as they grow up, help them as they become professionals in any space. And that is something that is very important for us as professional educators to think about. How are the skills and the teaching and all the thing we're doing, how is all of that helping this child not only learn information, but become a valuable and contributing citizen, somebody who can make a meaningful impact in the workplace and elsewhere. And then finally, responsible decision-making, right? For me to be able to think about the well-being of others, to evaluate consequences of my behavior, many of the things that we consider to be more sophisticated, children are capable of doing. We just have to be able to create the language, the platform, and the venue, so to speak, for them to understand it, interact with it, and of course, to develop as a result. So now that we've talked about the five core competencies of SEL, let's focus specifically on one area that I think is very powerful. You're probably familiar with it at its core, but I'd like to be able to make applications specific to the classroom. And that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs with a specific focus on education. And with every pyramid, we start at the bottom, we lay the foundation, and we work our way up. But we also realize that we need a very wide base. So long as we are very deeply established at the base, we could build gradually up and up. And of course, as we see, it kind of inclines on an angle because there's less of this than there is down here. So we move from physiological, which is about our very basic needs. So when we're thinking about it as a human, it's food and it's water and it's air and things like this. Then we move to safety, right? Do I feel safe and secure, which of course is important in any environment, issues with bullying, issues with, right, social emotional safety, as well as being valued and recognized as a member of the class or the group and this kind of thing. Relationships, that goes a little bit further in terms of actually developing bonds with peers, as well as with others. In the family life, it looks a little bit different. Self-esteem, feeling really good about who I am, understanding my value. And then self-actualization, which is finding true purpose in my life and feeling like I am living up to whatever it is that I was put on this earth to do, to accomplish, to create, etc. So as we apply this specifically to school, we think physiologically, do our students have access to basic resources, books, materials, computers, things like this? Many of our students do not. And that's an important consideration as we try to do our very best work. Assuming for the moment that we could address those, we move into safety. Do our students feel safe and comfortable in their learning environment? Again, safety is such a critical piece as we consider the pandemic and the implications of it. So if it's in person, are we being physically safe and social distancing? If it's remote, do I feel like I can interact and feel good about those interactions from a more distant posture and position? Relationship is establishing relationships with peers and instructors. And that would be us as teachers, especially if we're going to be starting with new students in the fall. How do we develop relationships quickly? That also is very, very critical. Self-esteem, building our students' confidence, growth mindset, the ability, I can do this, and then self-actualization, taking responsibility for their learning and helping students understand that we can only do so much for them. They need to take responsibility for their learning as well. So hopefully you can see already the interface between social, emotional, and the hierarchy, understanding that at its core, really on these foundational levels, being safe, being in control of our emotions, understanding that we are not robots, we are people, and our emotions factor in very deeply with our learning. And if we take care of them, we support them, we develop those relationships, the learning, of course, will follow. So that alone, I think, is of great value and importance, and something for us to be thinking about over the summer. How do I create a nurturing environment in which my students develop these core critical skills that we've talked about? And finally, as we talk about further the idea of confidence, we have to remember that a lot of us suffer from what's called imposter syndrome, which means we doubt our abilities. And we do this as adults, but we also doubt our abilities as children. And we wonder, do we have the goods to really, for lack of a better term, belong in this environment? So there are ways that we could build our students' confidence. Let's go through some of those quickly. Number one, the ability to understand and acknowledge your feelings. Not all of us are super confident all the time. Demystifying, helping your students label it and recognize that confidence grows through practice, confidence grows through competence, confidence grows through working at it time and again and recognizing your successes, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Acknowledge your feelings is a great place to start. And if you have negative thoughts about your abilities, replace them with better ones. I can do this. A little bit of fake it till you make it, but really kind of push yourself and say, I have more than I'm giving myself credit for. I will have a positive outcome. What's the worst that could happen if I don't succeed this time? That kind of thinking that reorients our mind and puts us on a better trajectory. Talking it out and discussing it, creating opportunity for our students, for example, to talk with peers and to share what's going on, giving them that safe space to be vulnerable and to share what they are struggling with and how they are hoping to change things moving forward. Encouraging them to take risks. We talked about mindset a little bit earlier. Students need to be able to take risks and be willing to live with the consequences. Of course, we want to create a safe place for those risks to be taken. But the more they're willing to grow, the more they will see that that growth will just build and amplify over time because there's this positive momentum that we create. Understanding and acknowledging that we have strengths. I can do this well and this well and this well. As we start to unpack them, we see, hey, I really have a lot of good qualities. I'm persistent, or maybe I'm detail oriented, or maybe I ask a lot of questions. Whatever those skills and strengths are, to list them, to acknowledge them, to value them, so that we start to build the confidence that much more. And then the last two pieces over here are connected. Number one is own your successes, as well as keep a record of positive feedback. So as you succeed and you get positive feedback, of course, I'm talking about communicating this to your students, but really for ourselves as well. We get notes and letters and emails and recognition in different ways. And sometimes we need to look at those and remind ourselves of the good work that we do. And our students really are the same way. And they should also be reminded of their successes, even at times when they're feeling a bit inadequate or removed or distant and scared, because these are normal feelings that we're going to feel during times of distance, during times of uncertainty. How do I succeed when I don't really know the platform? I don't really know the process, because it's never been something that's been asked of me until now. So as I'm wrapping up in this video, I really do hope, by the way, that you will share this. I hope that you will like and comment and give me your way, your approach, your strategies and best practices that you are incorporating SEL, social emotional learning, into your classroom, how you plan to do it moving forward so that you're paying top of mind attention to this really critical area. I would love to get, like I said, your feedback, and I think that we can continue the conversation here, because as we discuss it, and as we share ideas, and as we support each other in the deliverance of this critical set of skills, we will see that the impact will be immediate and will be long lasting and enduring, because our students will know that we didn't just care about how much they knew or how much they know, we cared about who they are as people and how they're going to grow and be supported during this challenging time.